If the sky is pink and white, if the ground is black and yellow, it's the same way you showed me.
It's actually amazing that the closed captioning can do the music as well. It's like you have the song lyrics at the bottom.
If you could fly, then you'd feel south. Up north's getting
Oh,
cold
the Frank
soon.
Ocean
Way
shout
it
out.
is, we're on land, so
I think we
I'm
have
so
a
on the whole truth. Keep it cool when it's still alive. Won't let you down when it's
I take
all
full
ruined.
credit for
Just
the
the
song
same way
selection.
you showed me. Showed me. You showed me love. Glory from above. Regardless, dear. It's all downhill from here. In the wake of a hurricane, dark skin of a summer shade, nosedive in the floodlines, tall tower, milk crate. It's the same way you showed me. Cannonball off the porch side, older kids trying off the roof. Just the same way you showed me. You showed. If you could die, come back to life. Up for air from the swim.
Let it go for another minute or two, I'd say.
To the dry land. Kiss the earth that birthed you.
Let a few more people filter in.
Alive and make it up when the sun is ruined. That's the same way you showed me. You showed me love. Glory from above. Regardless, dear. It's all downhill from here. Real life. About how it was. Tom G, Michael Jackson, all in shit. Say what up to Betty. The shoe. Say what up to Betty. Say what up to life and mortality. Rolling up my bikes, running up. Not for me. Nicotine, still in granny six. Take it, give me some sweet. Bitch, I might like immortality. This is life, immortality.
Great. Yeah, we'll get started in a second. Thanks for the question, Nicholas. Yes, I am watching March Madness, although my bracket is pretty much busted at this point, like most people's, I think.
All right.
Great. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight for Bonfire 5. I am super excited to be ceding the microphone and the bonfire tonight to Mariam and Chabu, two of our fellows from last year. So I'm going to go dark. You'll still see my little screen here because I have the webinar controls, but they're going to take it away. And so please welcome Mariam and Chabu, and wish you all the best. Enjoy the bonfire tonight.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Nick, for that introduction. So, as many of you know, I'm Mariam, and I'm super excited to be co-hosting this bonfire with Chabu. So this is bonfire number 5, how to connect and build with others. And like always, you can head on over to the bonfire channel in Slack, which is where we'll be chatting and answering all of the questions. So if you're not already over there, hop on over on Slack, and we'll get started right now. All right, so we'll kick it off with a rapid response round. So take a minute to think of what you're going to be doing over spring break. So as a reminder, next week is our fellowship spring break. So we'd love to hear about any of your plans and what you might be doing for your own spring break, and then respond in the Bonfire Slack channel.
Yes, and I will get us started with the timer. I know some of you have already had spring break, so you can also mention what you did in your past week. The responses are coming in. I see hiking, heading up to Pennsylvania, very cool. Organizing my Gmail, inbox 0 is golden. Studying for APs, napping, resting up is definitely a priority for sure. Peyton will be relaxing, again, totally support that. Going to the beach. If you are lucky enough to live near a beach, please take advantage of that. I know the world's kind of defrosting right now, which is cool. Someone has games most of the week, staying home, whale watching. Okay, you guys live in some interesting places.
I would love to hear more about that whale watching. That sounds very cool.
Yeah. Senior trips. Yep, that's a good time to have those. Finishing homework, great time to reset on the to-do list. I'm seeing a lot of similar things like studying for multiple essays, going to the museum and the aquarium. I love a good trip to the museum. That will never ever get old. Dario lives near Disney, so he's going to Disney, which is cool. Applying for scholarships, again, great time to like take advantage of the extra time to do that. All right. Schoolwork, yeah, not the most exciting, but will definitely help post spring break. Becoming a bigger figure in my community. Now that is a very, very, very cool answer. All right. Oh, visiting colleges. Yeah, this is definitely a time to take advantage for seniors. All right. These are some very cool plans or things that you guys have already done. So that is awesome to hear. And we're going to jump into today's agenda. So we're going to focus on taking care of yourself before taking care of others and what that means, how to connect with people in a community, and of course, how to build a change-making organization, and then our usual Q&A and our breakout hangout that will be hosted afterwards by Dario.
All right, so to recap last week, we talked about how to design your life and looked at ways you can optimize the things that you can control in your life. And we talked about how doing this kind of reflection is essential to becoming a civic superhero. So hopefully sometime between last week and this week, you were able to take a look at starting some of that reflection through your leadership blueprint. All right, and a quick reminder. So before you can take care of and better the communities and organizations you belong to, you must first take care of yourself. Self-care is super important, and we're going to be hitting a lot on that today. So this is just a really quick reminder that we want to emphasize.
All right, and so we have our second rapid response round. So what are roles you might play for your own sake? And of course, you can respond in the Slack channel, setting the timer for 2 minutes.
And also, Nick, if you're still there, we're getting some responses that people can't see our faces. And I'm not sure why, but okay. Oh, and some people are seeing all of this, so I'm not sure. But
Yeah, it looks like some of us can see you and some of us can't. I wouldn't worry too much about it. It might be on the user end. So I would push forward. One comment that I forgot to mention is try not to let the timer go all the way down to 0. Some people don't like the siren sound.
No problem.
So thank you.
okay, so into some of the responses: protector and caregiver, mediator for sure, sister, mentor, student, leader, therapist, of course, counselor, comforter, love these, teammates, learners. I see another therapist, hype woman. I love that. Definitely, for sure, protector, advocator, artist, organizer, affection giver. I love that. Interior designer, empath, empathy, super, super important always. Oh, negotiator and leader, a dreamer. That is very wholesome. I love that. Friend and an advocate, critical thinker, sometimes the parent friend. Yeah, definitely. Artist, LGBTQA influencer, someone who likes to laugh, supportive friend, definitely.
These are some amazing responses.
Sure. Mom friend, yeah, for sure. Giver, cheerleader, hype woman, yes, definitely. I love all of these responses. Oh, initiator of hanging out. I definitely love that too. Big brother. Yeah, these are some great responses. So now we're gonna get into some of our own as well.
Okay, cool.
All right, so some of the roles that you all have kind of touched on, but we want to go a little bit more into. There are many, many, as you've all have kind of been putting in the chat, and as you can see up here. But one of the roles that you can play for yourself is a problem solver. So you might already be used to playing this role like with your friends and helping them problem solve, but it's also something that's super important to do for your own self. Whenever problems do arise, like problem solving, what steps you can do to address it, maybe the resources that you can use, just kind of going through all those steps. You can also be a self-accountability partner, whether that be goals that you want to achieve or habits that you're looking to implement in your life. Holding yourself accountable and making sure that you're hitting those milestones and kind of like working towards that growth is something that you can be doing for yourself as well.
Yes. And some other really key roles that you can play for yourself include being a self-reflector. So really just being the one to initiate and pause, reflecting on your own actions or how things are going. I know sometimes we rely on our friends and family to kind of remind us, hey, maybe we should stop and think about that. You can totally initiate that process for yourself in a tons of different ways, whether it's like a morning reflection or a nightly routine reflection. And another key role that is really, really important is also being your own caregiver. Right now, for a lot of us, the role of caregiver is like our parents and our family. And I think that, like, you know, as you get older, it's not that you no longer need a caregiver. You just have to slowly start playing that role for yourself too. So it's always good to kind of start putting that into practice now. But yeah, these are some great example roles and how you can kind of be there for yourself in the ways that you need and aren't exactly normalized. So once you take care of yourself through some of the example roles we kind of gave, you can also take care of your community. You can play many roles in these communities that can make the experience better for everyone involved. So there are 3 communities we want to focus your attention on over the fellowship, one being your Junto, of course, and second to that, the entire fellowship class, and then, of course, other communities in the outside world. So your local community, your state, your nation, things like that.
Yeah. So how can you ensure that you're actually contributing to these communities and that what you are doing is meaningful and advancing your mission? Then what roles can you deliberately play in each community? All right, so the first community that we want to talk about is your Junto here in the fellowship. So you want to think a little bit about what roles you might play for your Junto. All right, so some of the examples, there are many that you can play, but one that I want to highlight is an idea generator. So coming into discussion, maybe you're bringing topics that you'd like to bring, that you want to discuss with your fellow peers. You might have ideas for projects or things like that. And just really kind of getting conversation going. You could also be an inspiration. Now, this sounds a little bit out there, but being someone that inspires others to maybe go after their goals that they might be a little bit hesitant by, like encouraging them. This could also work really well with the cheerleader role. If you're kind of like helping other members of your Junto and cheering them on, hyping them up. You could also be a listener. Sometimes people come into Junto and they just really need to vent about things that are going on. So being that shoulder to lean on and like someone to just be there and listen is something that a lot of people really appreciate and value in a Junto. Also a collaborator, whether that's inside the Junto, collaborating with like discussion and debate, or outside the Junto, maybe like working on projects with your other Junto members or things in the CU community. Collaboration is something that's really important inside your Junto and in general in the CU community. So that's definitely a role that you can step into. But like find out which one is like most comfortable for you, because there definitely is a role that you can step into. And there's not only one set role. Maybe one day you would like to be a listener and one day you would like to be the idea generator. I mean, play around with what feels most natural. And there's anything for everyone. So definitely.
And the second part that we want to kind of highlight is the whole entire fellowship class. So what roles might you play for the whole fellowship class? And so some examples that came to mind are being a connector and organizer. So there are so many incredible fellows, and you guys are kind of widespread, not only throughout the country, but throughout the world. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can connect and see where there's common ground or opportunities to see something that you might be working on or something that you might be interested in, and how it can bridge a connection with other members of the community. You can also be an organizer. Connecting and organizing are kind of one and the same in the sense that it requires a little bit of leadership and kind of situating the entire group, making it easy for people to kind of have that sense of connection. So being an organizer is also an incredible role that you can play for the whole fellowship class.
All right, so the third community we want to touch on is the outside world, and thinking about what roles you might play outside of CU and in the world at large. All right, so as you can see, there is many roles that you can play. And then one of them that most of you might fall into already is a citizen to whatever country that you reside in. So being a citizen looks a little bit different for everyone, but it could mean doing things that will advance your country forward, or maybe doing things that you want in order to see a brighter future for your country. A lot of like the work that we do here for CU. It could also be a visionary, so envisioning an optimistic future and what that might look like, coming up with ideas for how to make that future a reality, and just striving towards that bigger and brighter future that you imagine is something that's super important. But yeah.
And some other really cool examples would be being a conflict resolver. Unfortunately, there's just too many opportunities where there will be like moments of tension and conflict. And so you can really play a role of reminding people of what their common ground is. And this doesn't necessarily have to mean like spearheading some kind of conversation in the UN. You can be a conflict resolver in your classroom when having a classroom discussion, or even in your homes and families over like a family dinner discussion about something that might be conflict inducing. And the great thing about these skills is that a lot of them are applicable in every context. So for example, if you're a conflict resolver in your Junto or in the CU fellowship, you can also, it's really easy to practice that skill set and bring it to the outside world as well. Another incredible role is to be an architect. So of plans and systems, there are so many challenges that we face as a society, as a wider community. And so building the things that we need to kind of resolve those tensions and those issues, there's a role for that too. So being an architect of systems and plans is another role that you can play, and also a role that you're starting to train for here at CU. So part 2, how to build a change-making organization. So why can't an individual just do everything on their own? Why do they need to be part of an organization? I mean, for obvious reasons, we are all super talented as individuals, but again, there's a level of self-awareness and knowing what our limitations are, and to bring together the collective talents and energies and abilities of, the people around you, you can truly enact change. And that's where the part of being a part of an organization comes in. So let's start by defining the word organization. An organization is a body of people with a particular purpose. We will go into this in a bit more, but just know that an organization doesn't just mean a business or a club. It can also be a community or a group of people working towards the same goal.
All right, so that brings us to another rapid response round. So take a minute to think of some characteristics of an organization that can accomplish its change-making goals, and then respond in the Bonfire channel.
So I'm seeing some great responses already, like grit and teamwork. I'd even say that like having a great team makes it easier to have a lot of grit as an organization. Listening, mass communication, absolutely, for sure. Planning and efficiency, which goes hand in hand with organization. Communication, again, super important. A vision, having a collective vision is something that is integral to kind of connecting a lot of people. Courage and accountability, specific plans, task dividing and organization, which I love what Savannah said about clearly defined goals. Vulnerability, 100%. You can't have good communication without some vulnerability as well. responsibility, determination, hope, and hardworking energy. Humility, honesty, unity. Um, Carter mentioned ways to get involved. Yeah, you don't want to have a community that like is kind of closed off to other people. Empathy, passion should be the foundation of any organization. Space for individualism. Yes, yes, yes. Amazing leaders with clear communication. All right. No, these are some amazing responses. And you guys are also like kind of agreeing with each other. So love that there's common ground there. Space for debate and discussion. Yeah, here at CU, we obviously value dialogue a lot. And so just having room to have those important conversations is key. And motivation is another important component. All right. Thank you for your amazing answers. I'm inspired by some of the ideas you guys brought together.
All right, so we have definitely incorporated some of the ones that you're already talking about, but some ones that we really wanted to touch on are that an organization is capable of realizing its goal are first and foremost its vision, making sure that its vision is something somewhat of like a passion project in order to change something or some aspect of the world and increase and like brighten the future in some sort of way. And then going along with that, values that align with said vision and also values that you yourself hold as a person so that those values of yourself and the organization are aligned. Definitely your goals, the goals that help support the vision, and goals that are achievable but also far-reaching so that you're continuing to challenge the status quo and improve things. Partners is a really good indicator of an organization because if partners share the same values, that's a clear like sign that an organization is like being super transparent. Also, when an organization maintains its integrity with its partners, not compromising its values in order to like have certain partnerships is something that's really important when you're working with an organization. It's really important for an organization to be able to change strategies and be flexible because things do not always go to plan and often they don't go to plan, but when an organization is flexible and they're willing to kind of change strategies or change courses, that's a really good sign that they're able and willing to grow in the future. And then, of course, having a healthy team culture, one that encourages collaboration and exploration, is something that's going to be really important in the short and long term because as the community continues to grow, this team culture is only going to be more and more important.
For sure.
Okay, so in case you're wondering, we do try to exemplify these characteristics at CU. So just talking about them, it's not supposed to be some sort of academic exercise. We like to see these in practice in our everyday, day-to-day interactions at CU. And we hope that you've already started to see some of these characteristics come to life. But we just wanted to remind you that this is something that you should be seeing in any organization that you're working with, definitely not just an academic exercise.
So let's talk about a part of organizational development that you can start acting on today, which is fostering a healthy team culture. And so this is another rapid response round. What are qualities of a healthy team culture? And you guys can, of course, use the Slack channel to respond.
Social bonding, definitely. Open communication, empathy, kindness, vulnerability. I love seeing that one come up, especially after our past bonfire, but definitely inclusivity, respect is huge. Service-oriented leaders, definitely. Communication, fairness, shared values for sure, like we were talking about. Diversity, of course, space to respectfully disagree, definitely. That goes along the lines really well with like open communication as well. Compassion, empathy, understanding, for sure. Everyone is heard, but there's a leader to guide everyone. Encouragement, targeting the problem, not each other. Oh, that's a great one. Variety of options, complete trust. Yeah, trust is super important. Patience, definitely. Agreeing to disagree, for sure. Willingness to listen. Oh, boundaries, for sure. That is definitely a great one. Yeah, these are all great responses. And I'm seeing a lot that go along the lines of like having different opinions, but holding space for those opinions to both exist at the same time and respecting each other's opinions. And I think that's super important. So definitely agreeing with those. Communication, collaboration, for sure. These are all some great responses.
And the fact that we can like have a conversation about a healthy team culture also normalizes trying to build one, because it's really easy to kind of call out like this action or situation isn't the best way to like make sure that this is a healthy and safe space for everyone. So really loving the answers that we're seeing.
Definitely. And Abigail also mentioned healthy teams allow members space to learn and grow too. So definitely it kind of like trickles down from the team into like all the other members of the community. So I love that. I think that's a great one to end on.
Awesome. Okay. So here are 5 qualities of a healthy team culture. So 1, psychological safety. And so this comes down to the fact that like a team is really just a collection of individuals. And so you really have to make sure that you're providing a space where everyone's mental health is safe and well taken care of. That should be a priority, because again, taking care of yourself before you can take care of others, you also need to be in a safe space as an individual, to have great contributions to a team. Dependability is so important. You can have all the visions and goals, but if you aren't dependable and able to kind of carry out those tasks, then it makes it very hard for the team to kind of operate and build out what it is that they're envisioning. Structure is really key. It makes it easy to kind of get into execution mode of those goals and visions. Meaning is integral, especially when you have like incredible team members. To kind of retain that incredible team, you also have to have really important meaning behind what you're doing. It also helps drive important work. And of course, impact. Everything should be impact driven. The whole goal and purpose behind the team or the organization is to kind of execute the dream and vision. And so you want to make sure that you're actually doing something and not just kind of gathering for the sake of gathering.
Definitely. And so one really important point that we want to drive home even further is psychological safety. And so just kind of as an overview, this needs to ensure that team members are feeling safe enough to take a risk for the whole long-term benefit of the organization. And when team members feel safe, there's a free flow of ideas, which leads to better outcomes. And then psychological safety requires team members to also feel emotionally safe, which is just something that's super important. And overall, in any organization, when members aren't feeling safe enough to take risks or just safe enough to exist as their person in the organization, that's definitely a big concern. So we really prioritize psychological safety, and it's something that's super important to consider.
And so some takeaways for you when considering psychological safety within your team. So really it starts by leading by example. So set the tone for others by proactively asking for feedback and normalizing that feedback loop, acknowledging your mistakes publicly, welcoming opinions that differ from your own, encouraging others to ask questions and share feedback, caring about others' thoughts and opinions, and then also having a way for people to signal when they don't feel safe.
All right, so another one is dependability. And so basically, dependability is about accountability, and it's also about reliability and trust. So when everyone on the team is accountable, reliable, and trustworthy, the team is able to succeed. And a team can really start to crumble when even one person can't be trusted to do the work or even just have each other's back, because that kind of feeds into this whole cycle of not being able to trust other members, which gets into a slippery slope. So dependability is super important.
And so some key takeaways in regards to dependability. You have a lot of power, and also with that comes responsibility in any organization to set the tone for how dependable the rest of the organization is. So irrespective of like the hierarchy and structure, you, even just like you as an individual, have a lot of responsibility in just making sure that you emulate dependability, because that reflects on the organization as well. So do what you say you're going to do. Don't overpromise. That's really key. I know we get really excited about the work that we're doing and kind of just want to say yes to everything, but overpromising can lead to being not dependable. And then don't be less than you are capable of either. So kind of give your all when you can and hold others accountable for what they say they're going to do. And of course, model the behaviors you want to see in others.
All right, so another big one is structure and clarity. So this essentially means that there are clear standards and directives for the team, and each team member has a well-defined role within the group, so everyone knows what is expected of them, and knows what their place is in the entire community. And so at CU at large and in your crew or your junto, it's really important for you all and us to have structure and clarity, because when we agree upon how we're going to treat each other and show up, we all win, and it's just kind of a standard that we have set for our organization and every single member of the community. And so that super clear communication is really essential and what helps us keep moving forward.
And so what this looks like in practice is, again, leading by example, super, super key. And if you don't know what you're supposed to do, get that clarified, or be your own definer of what success looks like. And if an important role is not being played by anyone else on the team, consider stepping up to the plate. And if there seems to be confusion or misalignment in the team, proactively take steps to help the team get realigned. So that easily just means like having a conversation, and again, opening those lines of communication about what needs to get done and whether or not that's something that you're happy to take on.
Another big one is meaning. So team effectiveness is really dependent on individuals like yourself who find a sense of purpose in their work or its output. And all of you have similarities in why you joined CU. And all of you have your own personal reasons for joining, but different people can have different reasons for being on the same boat, which is also really cool because that brings in different perspectives, different life experiences, which all contribute to a really strengthened sense of meaning rather than just one sense that we all hold. So holding space for those diverse perspectives and worldviews is also super important in furthering our own meaning.
And so you can help your team find meaning in their work by finding meaning for yourself and helping your teammates connect similar dots. So again, it's really easy to get kind of lost in the process work. And so just like remembering kind of the overarching goal of like why you're here and making sure that that's at the forefront of every conversation is key. And for example, if you are excited about being a fellow because you want to save democracy, then you can help your teammates by finding similar meaning by explaining why you care so deeply.
All right, another huge one is impact, which is the opportunity for members to feel like they're making a positive difference. And team members are happiest and most motivated when they fundamentally believe that their work has a positive influence within the organization and in the lives of others. If people are doing work that they feel like isn't really contributing to the overall mission of the organization, it's going to feel a little bit pointless or repetitive. And so feeling like people actually have an impact and that their work is important is something that's super important for every single member of a team to hold and value.
That's for sure. And so when it comes to impact, set the tone again, and always do things that advance your shared mission, emphasis on shared mission, and then help teammates identify opportunities they can seize to make an impact. Again, like we all have the same common goal here. And so collaborating and putting all our energy in the same place is the best way to go. And then also recognize people for the work that they do. Every member of the team is integral to any progress that is made. And so it's really, really important to share those tacos, and kind of give each other applause when it's needed. All right, so some final takeaways. Within the communities of your life and at CU, there are dozens of roles that you can play. Knowing yourself and finding roles through which you can make great contributions will be essential for this journey. The ability of an organization to change the world hinges on having a healthy team culture, and you can contribute to how healthy that culture really is. And a big part of that also means taking care of yourself in the process.
All right, so for this week, you are going to be completing a goal setting exercise as your leadership blueprint quest, because setting goals is essential to knowing what you want and what you want to accomplish in a given time period.
And this week's recommendation is actually a book, The Proposals for the Feminine Economy by Jennifer Amherst. This book was recommended to me by Verda, and it is absolutely incredible and definitely brings some really interesting ideas to the table in regards to kind of how to treat a team or culture or organization in a way that's a little bit healthier than the frameworks that we use now. It is a book and not necessarily the most accessible. So there's also a podcast link that kind of discusses the ideas of the books, which are linked here and will be sent to you in an email later today. And feel free to use this recommendation to talk about it in your Juntos, in your Slack, share it with friends, teachers. It's definitely a great read.
All right, and so we have some exciting announcements this week. So as we mentioned, Nick is starting a new series called Nick's New Knowledge, and it's actually starting tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So you should already have an invite in your Google Calendar. And the topic is going to be First Amendment and Facebook's new Supreme Court. So if you're interested in that, feel free to join in tomorrow for the first session of Nick's New Knowledge. In terms of Saturday hangouts, we have 2 coming up on this Saturday. The first one being a cultural fair, that's going to be at 9 Eastern Time. And then we're going to have one in the evening, which is a trivia night, which is going to be at 6:30 Eastern Time. And you should also have Google Calendar invites to both of those events. Then another exciting piece of information is that a book club has been started by a group of enterprising fellows. And so the interest form will be shared on Slack and over email. So keep a look out for that if you're interested in joining a CU book club. And then finally, next week is our early spring break. So there are going to be no fellowship activities, which means that there won't be a bonfire next Monday and you're not going to have your Junto during the week. And so this break runs from Monday the 9th through Sunday, April 5th. And you can obviously, feel free to keep active in the chat and like talking to people. And you can obviously feel free to get together with people online. There's just not going to be any official programming next week. All right. So we're now going to be doing our usual Q&A session. So feel free to put any questions you have in the Zoom chat and then stick around because in around like 10 minutes, we're going to be doing a breakout hangout as usual. And Darielle will be sharing the link for that in the Slack. So for now, just put all and any of your questions in the Zoom chat.
So,
all right. So we have a question from Adam that says famous cities and okay, maybe this is a response to what are the Juntos named after. So Hannah asks, what are the Juntos named after? And Adam says famous cities and landmarks across the world. Yep, I know mine is named after a city, and I'm pretty sure that most others are also. But I see that Nick's typing an answer there. Perfect. Have another question from Hannah. It says, also, if you do take a leadership role when no one else wants to, do you have any tips on overall efficiency? I'm working on not making a fool of myself when taking these roles. Well, first I'll say that you don't have to worry about making a fool out of yourself. I know imposter syndrome is like super real in a lot of leadership roles, especially as you're getting started. So first of all, I would say own it, be like super confident in the fact that you are stepping up to the plate when no one else is, which already kind of shows that like you are doing an awesome job with that. But then Chabu, do you maybe want to talk a little bit on overall efficiency?
yeah, no, I think that it's also important to like make sure you're not over promising while you also step up to the plate. So just like be super aware of like what you feel is like a tangible thing that you can work on, something that is like absolutely necessary for the team because you don't want to like take on extra tasks that aren't a priority right now. And then as always, like communicate what you're doing, why you're doing it, ask any questions up front, and I promise there will be no situation where you're making a fool of yourself. Stepping up to the plate is always appreciated and applauded.
For sure. All right, we also see a question that says, once the fellowship ends, what are some of our possible roles for fellows in CU? What can our impact be? And one thing I will say in terms of your second question is that your impact doesn't have to start after the fellowship ends. It can start right here, right now. If you have project ideas or anything that you would like to work on, I mean, all of us here at CU are super happy to help you get started with that right away. There's no need to wait. But after the fellowship ends, you all will be initiated into the Civics 2030 community as a builder. And so you won't kind of be like out of CU at that point. You'll still definitely have a lot of involvement, and that will give you access to a lot of support from the CU team members, as well as like resources to get started with different projects, also internships, things like that. But Chabu, do you want to add anything on to that?
Yeah, no, I just definitely want to emphasize the fact that like it's not a thing that has to start at the end of the fellowship. I can definitely speak to my own experience about the fact that I was just like super, super engaged in the fellowship as it was happening, and really taking advantage of like all the resources and learning that was offered. And so it's not necessarily like, and the thing is that CU is like always growing and expanding, so you never know like what roles will be needed in the near future. And so just being super attentive to the community and really giving your all in participation is the best pathway to kind of finding your U-shaped hole within our space.
Right. We're seeing another question that says, what is one piece of advice you would give to 2021 fellows based off of your 2020 experience? And I think we can both answer this question, but for me, I would definitely say be involved in the Slack and with all of the other fellows, because there are some really, really cool people. I mean, all of you are really, really cool people. And I think just like taking advantage of the fact that you have like 500 people from across the country that are all super passionate and dedicated and as like a part of your fellowship is something that's so cool. I've met some of my like really close friends through the fellowship, so definitely put yourself out there. I know that like I personally faced a lot of imposter syndrome in the beginning of the fellowship because everyone seemed like they were doing like really cool projects and things like that, and I was like, I don't really feel like I match up to all of this, and so I was kind of a little bit shyer in the beginning. But like, don't let that be you. Coming from someone who's been through it all, definitely like put yourself out there. I can tell you that so many other people face that too. And yeah, just like take advantage of everything that it has to offer, because it's definitely a great experience.
Yes. And I would also add, kind of be patient about it too. I definitely like, I know that a lot of people were like making friends in the earlier days of the fellowship. And I definitely was a little bit more reserved, and that didn't really happen until like after the fellowship entirely. And then I suddenly was like connected with some of like my closest friends now. So, you know, trust in the process. It's not necessarily going to happen like overnight or like in the beginning. And I just want to advocate to complete your leadership blueprint. It is such an amazing tool. So helpful. I will never be done raving about it. I think that it was probably everything in the fellowship is super meaningful and important, but the leadership blueprint is definitely an asset and a tool that I encourage everyone to take advantage of.
Definitely. I'm not seeing any other questions, so if you do have any, feel free to put them in the chat and would be happy to go over them. And we can wait a couple minutes for that. But if not, then I think we might be getting started with our breakout hangout soon. So we'll just wait a couple minutes to make sure that we've answered all the questions. But yeah, thank you all so much for a great bonfire. I was really excited to host this with Chabu. And I always love doing these bonfires and like connecting with all of you. So thank you all for a lovely time.
All right, no, and thank you, Miriam, for co-hosting. This was cool. It was so great to kind of like participate from this front. And we're excited about next week's bonfire, which will be even cooler.
Fantastic job. You two were incredible. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And the link for the breakout hangout is in the Slack chat, in case you all are wondering. So you can definitely head on over there if you'd like to join for the breakout hangout.
All right. We'll end the call. See you later, everybody.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.